Welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news, updates, debates and my opinions. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Bottom right hand corner, we're targeting 4,300 subscribers. And let's get into Arsenal 5, MLS All-Stars 0. A really good game. I watched it back this morning in the end. I apologise. I couldn't stream last night. I was going to wake someone in the flat up and it just wouldn't have been worth it. But I watched the full game back this morning and obviously 5-0 against MLS All-Stars, who, I mean, really not many of them were stars anyway, doesn't mean a lot. But looking at the game, there are a lot of positives to take from it and very few negatives, honestly. So working our way out from the back, for me, obviously Ramsdale, White, Saliba and Gabriel, you know what you're getting with them. I thought they were fantastic. Couple of times where you see, you know, Saliba, when he came across to intercept that ball, I think it was Puig with the ball, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he intercepted it, won the ball back, takes it sort of to the corner, dribbles his way out. I mean, it's almost painful thinking about what could have been if he hadn't got that injury at the end of last season, but having him back is phenomenal. But really, from the back line, in the first half, especially what I want to talk about is Kiwior, who once again really impressed me. And I do think we're going to see a lot more of Kiwior this season. And I do think there's a potential that sometimes we'll see Kiwior playing instead of Gabriel. And of course, Gabriel played every Premier League game for us last season. I do feel like Kiwior is approaching a level where he could compete for Gabriel, depending on the system that we're playing. If it's a sort of back three in possession where Kiwior could play that left centre-back role. Now, you know, it's just a great situation to have that you've gone out and bought a player in January for 21 million and he's at the level where potentially he can compete to start ahead of Gabriel. I don't think he will initially, but the way he was pinging balls over the top to Bukayo Saka 2 or 3 times, just lovely diagonal balls into Bukayo Saka's feet. The way actually that he and Gabriel interchanged between centre-back and left-back was really good as well. And again, you can see both of them playing in the same system. We saw it in the first half last night. So massively impressed with Kiwior. I was at the end of last season, but again, in the first 2 games of pre-season, he has stood out for me. So that's very good. Moving into the midfield, Jorginho, again, you kind of got what you expected from Jorginho. Interestingly, scoring the penalty. When he plays, does he take penalties over Bukayo Saka? I think he probably should, but it'll be interesting to see how that develops in the season. Trossard as the left 8. You know, we saw it a few times at the end of last season, but I felt at the time it was more out of necessity than desire from Arteta. But we've seen it for the first 2 games of this pre-season. We've seen Trossard playing that role, and he's been really impressive, which I guess you would expect. And I think he benefits from, you know, 2 games where you're not really being overrun at all in the midfield. I think that role becomes much harder against more well-structured midfields that have got more power and aggression, which you'll see in the Premier League. But for these sorts of games, Trossard's been really, really good. Obviously got his goal cutting in on his right foot. The way that he interchanges with the left winger, whether it's Jesus or Martinelli, the centre forward, whether it's Jesus or Nketiah, whoever it is, it's really exciting to see him in that role. And again, just another option that I hadn't really even considered being a potential left-sided 8 option this season, but we go into it with him there, and you know, the consistent versatility across players at the moment is staggering. You know, in Trossard now you've got a player that can play off the left, can play as the centre forward, can play off the right, although I've not really enjoyed seeing him off the right, and can play in the midfield. Obviously, we saw Havertz come on in the second half, got his goal, which silenced those Chelsea haters, which was really good. And interestingly, what Arteta said about Havertz after the game, I think, is quite notable. He said, I think, again, it's one of the main qualities he has. This is in terms of his ability to play a variety of positions. He said, I think it's one of the main qualities he has. He gives us something very different with his quality and size as well, when you have to beat the press, for example, and use him as a target man. And that was something that I said when we signed him. And one thing that we struggled with last season in games against teams that are very good in the press, particularly Man City, Man City's ability to clear our press by going long to Erling Haaland was a massive advantage in those games. We never had it. And having Havertz as a, you know, a player that can do that, it does become an advantage. You might only need to use it 2 or 3 times a season, but it's there when you do need it. He went on to say, we'll see. For now, he's playing as an attacking midfield position, but I'm sure throughout the season and throughout games as well, we're going to have the options to play him in different positions. Again, versatility is the key, and I think it's just really important that Havertz gains confidence, grows in confidence, adapts to playing at Arsenal, and I think we're going to see a really, really good player. Just going back to Trossard, by the way, Arteta, because he went off with a slight knock. Arteta said it's a knock. Obviously, we didn't want to take any risks at this stage. He had some pain. We'll have to see how it is tomorrow. I don't expect it to be anything big, so we're not expecting Trossard to be out for any length of time. Then, kind of sticking with the theme of midfield, but I guess defence really, Rory and Timber. Obviously, his debut for Arsenal, and he was fantastic. In the time that he was on, I mean, I watched a 2.5 minute highlight before I watched the full game back. Watched like a 2.5 minute compilation of Rory and Timber today. That could have been taken from 5 or 6 different games. In the end, it was like half a game of football. Arteta spoke about it pretty much perfectly. He said, I think what you've seen tonight is that he's a really versatile player. You can see him defend in those positions. He gives you the capacity to invert, to occupy different spaces. He's so comfortable on the ball. And in that phase, he's also got this aggression in the duels and that dynamism that I really like about him. I think he's going to be a really important player for us. And you did. You saw him all over the pitch. You saw him defend well when he needed to at right back. Saw him moving into the midfield, all the way across the midfield, very similarly to where we saw Zinchenko last season, where you could see him pop up on the right-hand side of the midfield at times. Timber was doing the same off the left. So good and composed on the ball in tight spaces, turning away from players. The passing, fantastic, intricate passing, long-range passing. I'm so excited. And this was why, right at the start of the transfer window, I said he was the main defensive target for me. And it just gives us so many options. It gives us so many options. I think you can have Timber and Kiwior as the 2 fullbacks, and then you can have Zinchenko and Ben White as the 2 fullbacks. It's so exciting going into next season. Declan Rice, another debut, just looked so comfortable on the ball. Again, I don't want to get too carried away with any of these performances just because of who the opposition were, but the one-touch passing, constantly knowing everything that was going on around him, just dictating the tempo. As soon as he came on, pointing left, right and centre, telling people where to be, a natural leader. I think 105 million at the end of next season is going to look like it was an absolute bargain for Declan Rice. And of course, with the attacking players, Saka looked sensational. Jesus, the goal that he scored, some people have tried to claim that was a fluke. Look at if you haven't seen it, just go on Twitter, you'll find it. The referee was wearing a body cam. If you see the footage of Jesus' goal from the ref's body cam, you can see he's done it deliberately, and it's so good from the angle the referee's got of it. It'll be great, bring up Jesus' confidence next season. I've got no doubt he's going to have a great season. Really good to see Martinelli back. Obviously that injury he's recovered from now, and moving into the next game against Man United, I hope he'll start. And really, the only other thing to consider is just the level of depth we have. We started that game with a midfield of Jorginho, Trossard and Fabio Vieira, which I think is a not weak midfield. I think that midfield's good enough to probably beat the bottom half of the Premier League. Then in the second half, you've got a midfield where you've got Rice, Ødegaard, Havertz, and all of that doesn't even factor in the fact that Zinchenko and Thomas Partey were absent. I mean, it's unbelievable levels of depth, particularly moving into the midfield now, with the likes of Rory and Timber that can do it as well. And to be fair, yesterday Arteta said before the game he loves midfielders, and the amount of depth that we've got there now is sensational. It's exciting. I'll be back at 5 for a normal live stream. We'll talk more about the game, any sort of transfer news and stuff that we've got today. But other than that, please do subscribe if you're new. Smash a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And have a fantastic day. Cheers.